Prologue. In a small corner of Devonshire, in the picture postcard region known as South Hams, there is an island. On that island is a luxury hotel that for nearly a century and a quarter has been visited by the world's most famous people. Twice a day, opposing waves wash over the glorious golden sands of the causeway that joins the island to the mainland. When these crashing waves meet like jousting knights, the island is cut off from the world. A solitary sea tractor then ferries passengers to and from the hotel, but only if the storms are not raging. When the moon is high above the island, and the star-lit sea surrounds, the notion that the island holds the greatest secret in the world is not such a strange belief with which to begin a tale. 24 years ago, during a violent winter storm, Evie Archer's father, Alexander, vanished from the wave-swept cliffs of Burgh Island, the legendary tidal isle just off the coast of South Deven. All of his clothing, from raincoat to underwear, were found sodden but folded neatly, resting on his walking boots, which were still laced on the rocks leading down to Herring Bay. His round, antique spectacles rested centrally on top of them, one lens cracked. He couldn't see without them. Within the zipped coat pocket, his wallet and passport remained dry and unscathed. He had simply disappeared. The battered leather shoulder bag that never left his side was not found on the cliffs, nor was it found in the deserted lodgings. His bed had been formally and precisely made, the floor swept, and all items of cutlery and crockery put away in the cupboards. It was as if he had never been there, as if he had never existed there. Alexander had rented the small set of rooms in the attics of the 13th century Pilchard Inn on the slipway of Burgh Island, and paid for them in cash. He had been there for the last few months of the 700 or so years the building had served beer. Presumably, to all concerned, the only thing he took with him naked into the sea was the satchel and its contents. A bizarre twist to a tragic tale, with the coroner recording, "Presumed dead, suicide," after the usual passing of time and lack of body to inspect. Alexander had been temporarily estranged from his wife by mutual agreement. To her, his obsessive, increasingly delusional and erratic behavior had detached him from the present world, from her, and from their newborn daughter. He had been distant and distracted. His historical research had taken a turn, and he had to finish that which he had started. He spoke of the Holy Grail and a light within himself, calling him deeper, drawing him in, into myth and legend, revealing itself step by step. Alexander said he wanted to find the truth, but in that, Evie's mother knew, he was lost to both mother and child. He had tried to explain how he had been excitedly corresponding with a retired French monk in Cambodia, but his wife wasn't sure that the monk actually existed, and that he wasn't a figment of her husband's increasingly paranoid state of mind. He thought the monk had awakened him, that he had shown him the way. She knew it was a hallucination. Alexander's research had led him down to South Hams in Devon in the southwest of England, down to the small exceptional region of natural beauty to the south of Dartmoor's peaks. So exceptional in its beauty it is designated an area of outstanding natural beauty, or A&B for short. It led him down to this wind-swept island, separated by sea twice a day, with a sand causeway exposing itself and bringing connection. Even South Hams District Council signage states the region is somewhere special beneath its name on the road signs as you arrive. The night before his disappearance, he had excitedly managed to phone his wife from the only phone working on the island, in the once ruinous reception of the now fully rejuvenated Burgh Island Hotel. He had told her he loved her and was coming home the very next day, just as long as the storm had eased and the sea tractor could run. He could have waited for the causeway to come if it had not. He told her that he had found what he was searching for, and it was going to change their world, and more. He sounded sincere, relieved and apologetic, joyful even, like his old self. The pips went as his coins ran out, and his last words were of love. He didn't know if she'd heard him. She had. They were the last words she'd ever hear him say. His wife had waited for him in London, staring out of the window of the first-floor apartment in a side street in Chelsea, just off the King's Road, hopeful for his promised return. All that came, after a long and disappointingly sad week, were two policemen in near-perfect identical uniforms and haircuts. They had made her sit down at her kitchen table before, in unison, they informed her that he was lost. He had disappeared without a trace. He had presumably drowned, and she should prepare herself for the worst. Evie, their only daughter, had just turned 1. Evie's mum had fallen to the floor screaming as the grief set in. Her baby joined in. Now, mid-afternoon on her 25th birthday, Evie Archer sat alone, silently, at that same old stained oak kitchen table in the Chelsea flat her mother had left her, along with everything else that she owned. Her mother had passed away after a brief but courageous battle with a brain tumour, and now, in front of Evie, a Fortnum and Mason's hamper, layered within with straw packaging, held a battered leather satchel with her father's initials and his full name stamped upon it. A.R.A. Alexander Robert Archer. Evie sat, staring. She glanced over in the mirror and saw herself. The look of palpable shock on her face was distorting the cheerful birthday countenance she had previously been feeling until this moment. The satchel's leather was stained and smelt of Bentleys, her favourite antique shop in Fulham. There was also the faint smell of tobacco pouch and the sea. A familiar smell, an old smell. On the surface of the leather there were pen marks, ink blotches and scratches that may or may not have been deliberate, not that they appeared to actually make any form of pattern to Evie's inquisitive mind. The hamper had arrived in the post that morning, cardboard boxed and wrapped in brown paper with string. Old school, she thought. Her name handwritten in black Sharpie marker capital lettering on a printed label, and a single line of text below, urgent, for your eyes only, Evie. No note to be found within. Her now lightly shaking hands lifted the satchel out of the hamper and placed it on the table. Evie started to undo the buckles to open it. She replaced the straw that fell out from the hamper back into the same, keeping the table clear of extraordinary debris. Evie hated detritus. The satchel was strangely familiar to her. She recognized that its arrival had created a depth of emotional response that she was struggling to understand in her normally stable and minutely controlled state. An unfamiliar response. As far as she remembered, she had only seen the satchel twice before. Her mum had often talked about it, though. Its absence was notable. Evie saw it once in the faded photograph of her father, from a news report of his disappearance, where it was slung across his shoulder. She carried that story and image, folded in his battered cigarette case everywhere, along with her few emergency smokes. The second time she had seen the satchel was in her flat, in the photograph that stood within the ornate silver frame on top of her mother's beloved polished black Yamaha C1 Baby Grand piano. Her father was clutching the satchel in his left hand, his right tightly holding Evie's mother's. The look of love between them unfaded over the years. He held his two loves tightly, his wife and his research. It was a shame he let one go, Evie thought. The hair on Evie's arms rose with the goosebumps beneath them. Her breathing sped up. She felt like she was about to explode the contents of 25 years of absence out of her guts, sick. Anticipation was not her favorite